I would like to briefly discuss development that recently took place in Germany, more specifically Berlin. Now, I am aware that on this channel I typically talk about American politics because I am American and that is what mostly concerns me, but I thought this situation was incredibly astounding and I don't see many people discussing it, so I decided to give it a go. Now, for those of you that aren't aware, there was a recent election in Germany where the Christian Democratic Union of Germany was recently replaced by the SPD. Now, the Christian Democratic Union is abbreviated CDU. They were replaced by the SPD, which is the Socialist Party of Germany, a party that goes without saying is to their left. The CDU, characterized as far as it goes, as Germans, I believe, would call it, is a center-right party. Now, disclaimer for American viewers that may come across this video, their version of right-wing, their definition of conservatism is much, vastly different than it is here in the United States. I think a lot of people from the U.S. Get confused because as a nation, we're like the Overton window is shifted so far to the right, you know, in these European countries and what have you, it's much different. And I feel like it's easy for people to be led astray because Germany as a country have things that we don't have in this country. I'll give you a few examples. They have free higher education for everyone. That doesn't just include German citizens. That includes immigrants as well. People that come in from the outside can enjoy the luxury of a free higher education at no cost. Of course, you have to pay for room and board, but everything else is completely of no cost. They have 5 weeks of paid vacation. They have many paid holidays off. And of course, the biggest thing, that's the biggest debate here in this country, is universal health care. Everybody in Germany, whether or not they have a job, we know how much we despise employer-based health care here in this country, can enjoy the luxury of going to the hospital, going to the doctor, receiving care for whatever it may be, and paying no money for it. Because that's just how things work in that particular country. Now, with that being said, there was a referendum in Germany where a big decision was made, and that basically spurred the need for me to create this video. This is from Business Insider. Roughly 56% of Berlin voters backed an initiative on Sunday that would force the city government to buy units owned by corporate landlords. The measure could lead the government to buy up to 240,000 apartments from the corporations. The rule targets landlords that own more than 3,000 rental units, meaning property gains like Deutsche Wohnen, I believe is how you say that, which owns more than 100,000 units in Berlin alone, would be the most affected. The outcome represents a progressive effort to cool one of Europe's hottest housing markets. Rent prices have surged 13% in the last 12 months, according to Berlin-based real estate firm Gutmann. Years of underbuilding now leave the city with an apartment shortage of 205,000, the firm said. With 3/4 of Berlin residents renting, the lack of sufficient housing supply has powered a stifling jump in rent pricing. So due to the privatization of housing, these renters are getting screwed. Okay, they're getting price gouged. Okay, and I believe the percentage is 84% of housing in this specific region of Germany is rental housing. Okay, the referendum marks a shift from the free market model and towards one that views affordable housing as a human right. Public ownership of units would offer more affordable housing options. The proposal's approval shows Berliners are interested in more drastic steps to cool the market than denser zoning or more building on the city's outskirts. Now, a disclaimer is that this rule is non-binding, meaning the government doesn't have to act in accordance to the initiative, but the pressure is on. The people have indeed spoken. This is what they like. The leaders of this movement, including the people themselves, can put the pressure on the government, and they're going to have to make a decision, and hopefully it'll be the one that's in the best interest of the people. Now, in order to achieve this great feat, they needed 343,000 signatures. Needless to say, they got them. Now, this speaks to a huge problem that we Americans here face in this country. And I believe that we can learn a lot from this decision in Berlin, as well as German politics as it is. I would like to read to you In case you didn't know this, so the city of Berlin is governed by a coalition of three parties. Three. Here we go. The Social Democratic Party, the Left, and the Greens. A coalition of three parties: the Social Democratic Party, the Greens, and the Left Party. The Social Democratic Party, those are your Social Democrats, and the Left Party, those are your Democratic Socialists, in case you couldn't differentiate between the two. Hopefully you can discern the differences between those two terms without me having to define them. But that's the coalition of government in Berlin. And the Berlin citizens just passed this amazing referendum. They just had an election where the party that was to the left of the current party that resided in power was pushed in. I mean, amazing development in this particular region of the world. And here in America right now, we're having ongoing talks about infrastructure. And there's this 3.5 trillion over 10 years, by the way, dollar infrastructure bill that's being heavily debated. And in this particular bill, I thought this was amazing. Contains things that don't even really come close to what the people in Germany already have. So like they have free higher education all across the board. In this infrastructure bill is free community college. It falls short of what they have. I mean, universal health care. In this in this infrastructure bill, it's an expansion of Medicaid to cover hearing and dental and things of that nature. So my point is they're arguing and they're trying to decide whether or not you as an American deserves things that fall far from what other countries already have and have in a much better state than what we have. You know, it just shows you the different ideologies that our politicians have, and the people. You know, the people of Germany are much more warm. In any European country in general, you know, Scandinavian countries are much more warm to leftist policies than we are, because we've been so heavily propagandized. The Cold War did a number on the population here, but we are now starting to come around as Americans, I feel, with the introduction of Bernie Sanders, AOC, many other left leaders in Congress and people out of Congress at rallying the troops and kind of getting the American people to warm up to the idea that better things are indeed possible, and that, you know, if you say the word socialism, you won't be struck by lightning and die because you simply uttered the term. We have Marco Rubio, who's an idiot, by the way, is on Twitter saying that this $3.5 trillion infrastructure package is Marxism. I mean, that's what goes on in this country. A bill like that, which has basic necessities in it, things that other countries have already gone far beyond, it's Marxism. Absolutely insane. It just shows the stark contrast between this country and another one. But kudos to the people of Berlin. Kudos to the people of Germany. Of course, Germany and Berlin have their problems just like we do, just like any other place does. But I thought it was, I thought it would be very good and educational to point out these differences, as well as this new referendum, which is sure to provide help to many people that need it.